the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Practitioner Brief here on the CyberHub podcast. I'm your host, James Azar. I hope you're having a magnificent morning. It's Wednesday, April 7th, 2021. We have a lot of stories to talk about today in our Practitioner Brief, so stay tuned. We're going to talk about a Google patch, an SAP vulnerability, more SolarWinds. Yep, SolarWinds is yet to go away, and it won't for the foreseeable future, so stick around for that one. A new emerging tool used by cyber criminals, and China and their hackers back at it again with some really dirty tricks that could pose a great risk for our organization in a lot of different ways. So you want to stay tuned for all of that today. We are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So please make sure to comment and subscribe if you're listening after the fact on your favorite podcast listening platform. Please subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. That helps boost us up in the rating where more people can find us. So make sure to share and talk about the Practitioner Brief here on the CyberHub podcast under our flagship podcast, CyberHub podcast. So make sure you do that. Today's episode is supported by our friends over at Know4j, Wistic, and Ativo Networks. Make sure to check them out. More information about them is available on our show notes. So make sure to tune in and check these awesome folks out. It's going to be great. Before we get started, though, our ceremonial coffee sip. I said sip. I'm sorry. It's Wednesday morning. It's April 7th. I had a day yesterday. Won't get into that. You can go to my LinkedIn page, James J. Azar, posted it all there, but I'm still smiling. That's really what's important. In honor of the Masters next week. So Masters kicks off, I think, tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, or Friday. And so in honor of the Masters, I'm using, again, my Masters cup. So for all of those folks over in Augusta, good luck. And here's my ceremonial double espresso. Again, also this time, Sprouts, a different brew. It's great. I don't know. Sprouts makes really good organic coffee. There's nothing more I can say about that. All right, folks, let's get right into what's happening today. So Google patches a critical code execution vulnerability in Android. So the Android April 2021 security bulletin was published this week by Google, describes more than 30 vulnerabilities in the mobile operating system, including a remote code execution flaw in the system component. It's tracked to CVE 2021-0430, and it's affecting Android 10 and 11. The code execution vulnerability is deemed critical severity. The bug was patched as part of the April security patch level. The most severe of these issues is a critical security vulnerability in the system component that could enable a remote attacker using a specially crafted file to execute arbitrary code within the context of a privileged process, Google explains. 5 other vulnerabilities were also addressed in the system component, 3 elevations of privileges, and 2 information disclosure issues. All of these features feature a severity rating of high. The second part of this month, set of patches, which arrives on the devices as of April 5th. Security patch level includes fixes for 18 vulnerabilities in system, kernel components, MediaTek components, Qualcomm components, and Qualcomm closed source components as well. So devices running a security patch level for 2021-0405 or later have fixes for all of these issues associated with the security patch level. If you're not there, make sure to get those devices patched. That's really, really important. We move on to an SAP bug that's under active cyber attack, which is causing widespread compromise. Here's the risk here. So when we look at this, 92% of the Forbes Global 2000 have standardized on SAP to power their operations to fuel the global economy. That's over more than 400,000 organizations that use SAP. 77% of the world's transactional revenue touches an SAP systems, and these organizations include the vast majority of pharmaceutical, critical infrastructure, utility companies, food distributors, defense, and much, much more. Government agencies should take particular notice of the spat of attacks, researchers said. SAP systems are a prominent attack vectors for bad actors. Most federal agencies are running on SAP, and it has become the industry standard for government entities. So we've got an active exploitation going on, and the attacks are brute forcing high privilege ACP user accounts, as well as exploiting a raft of known bugs, including CVE 2020-6287, CVE 2020-6207, CVE 2018-2380, 2016 90563, 2016 39076, and CVE 2010-5326, according to the warning. The adversaries are advanced threat actors, according to Onopsis, as evident by how quickly they've been able to develop exploits, among other things. There is conclusive evidence that cyber attackers are actively targeting and exploiting unsecured SAP applications through a varied set of techniques, tools, and procedures, and clear indications of a sophisticated knowledge of a mission-critical applications. The alert reads, the Windows 4 Defenders is significantly smaller than previously thought, with examples of SAP vulnerabilities being weaponized in less than 72 hours since the release of patches, and new unprotected SAP application provisioned in cloud environments being discovered and compromised in less than 3 hours. So this is extremely significant if you're on SAP or if you're working with organizations that are on SNP. This puts you in direct risk of being able to infiltrate. We're looking at brute forcing. We're looking at application level access. There are lateral movements on several of these CVEs. There's OS level access on all of them, but they get control of mission critical data and processes within an organization. And we all know this is bad news. Who's behind this? At this time, it looks like the attacks, the activities originating from all over the world, including Hong Kong, India, Japan, Netherlands, Singapore, South Korea, Sweden, Taiwan, US, Vietnam, and Yemen. You want to get this stuff patched. Apply your patches immediately. The time to apply patches is no longer, a week or two. This stuff's got to have a quick turnaround. Get your patch management system in place. That's really, really significant. And the other piece here that's really important, folks, and something to really consider is the following. As more and more of these applications become vulnerable, as we're in a SaaS environment, you're going to see a lot more of this stuff happen. So you want to have your patch management system in place. You want to have your vendor risk management assessments right next door to you. You want to know who's using SAP, what that threat could be to your organizations through them. And then security is about partnerships. So we're not trying to blow up a contract. We're not trying to stop doing business, but how do we mitigate the risks coming from our vendors, especially in these types of situations, is critical. Let's get to SolarWinds, where senators are pressing for more on the SolarWinds breach after an Associated Press report. In letters to top officials, Senators Gary Peters and Rob Portman said recent reporting by the AP raised the troubling possibility that some federal agencies did not fully report the extent of the breach to Congress. Time and again, the committee has discussed the challenges of defending against sophisticated, well-resourced, and patient cyber adversaries. Nevertheless, the fact remains that despite significant investment in cyber defenses, the federal government did not initially detect this cyber attack, the senators wrote. Peters, who's a Democrat from Michigan, chairs the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, and Portman of Ohio is the top Republican. The AP reported last month that the suspected Russian hackers gained access to email accounts belonging to former President Trump's administration's acting Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf and members of his department's cybersecurity staff, whose jobs include hunting threats from foreign countries. It's been nearly 4 months since officials have discovered what they describe as a sprawling month-long cyber espionage effort done largely through the hack of a widely used software from Texas-based SolarWinds. At least 9 federal agencies, including DHS, were victims of this as well. Brandon Wells, the acting director of CISA at DHS, and Christopher DeRusha, who's the chief information security officer at the Office of Management and Budget, all received the letter as well. The senators are asking for several more documentation. And Neuberger, who's the deputy national security advisor, said in an interview with the AP last week that there were gaps in cybersecurity defenses at some of the 9 agencies. And we can talk a little bit more about that. We're going to point the fingers, but nonetheless, there's still a lot more to find out about SolarWinds. We're nowhere near the end of this. This one, folks, this is amazing. So emerging hacking tool EtterSilent mimics DocuSign, according to researchers. This is according to our friends over at Intel 471, which published a report on Tuesday. The document builder known as EtterSilent has been advertised in Russian cybercrime forums and comes in 2 versions according to the research. One exploits a vulnerability in Microsoft Office, which is CV 2017-8570, and one uses a malicious macro. One version of the EtterSilent imitates the digital signature product DocuSign, though when targets click through to electronically signed documents, they are prompted to enable macros. This allows the attackers to target victims with malware. EtterSilent also offers benefit for criminals looking for the latest tools to run their schemes. The malicious document builder has been crafted to conceal the activity of its operators and has been constantly updated in recent months to avoid detection, according to Intel 471. The widespread use of EtterSilent shows how commoditization is a big part of the cybercrime economy. Different players specialize in their respective areas, whether that's be robust hosting, spam infrastructure, mail doc builders, or malware as a service. They find ways to leverage those products and work together, and to do that so much better than we do sometimes, most of the times. It's really important to note here, folks, they're using DocuSign, they're using stuff that's part of our business operations in order to infiltrate our organizations. So we want to keep our eye out for this stuff. We want to set some controls in place around this, possibly send an email blast today, just letting people know DocuSign never requires you to enable macros. If you get one that requires you to enable macros, please don't use it. Report it right away. Don't click it. Report it right away, and we'll take care of it for you. Just a small note like that as a bulletin will raise awareness around DocuSign in these types of vulnerabilities. And finally, COVID's almost over. And soon, and many of you are already doing this, are traveling. On April 27th, I'm actually hosting our first in-person / virtual event here in Atlanta, Georgia, with my friends over at Atlanta Tech Park, atpcyberfintech.com. You see that right there on the bottom. If you can't attend in person, virtual tickets are absolutely free on the website, aptcyberfintech.com. Go there, get your tickets right now. You don't want to miss it. I've got a fireside chat with Sam Phillips. You'll get a preview of that next week. I've got Ron Green, the CISO over at MasterCard, joining us as well. You'll see that podcast. You'll see part of our fireside chat on the podcast the week before the event, I believe April 22nd. And Sam Phillips, who's the head of cybersecurity engineering over at Wells Fargo. Also, don't want to miss these. Great speakers. Go sign up now. But Chinese hackers are at it again, folks. Chinese hackers are installing cameras in hotels. They're taking the tape, they're selling it among each other, and then they go to blackmail the victims. So think of your executives going to China, and this doesn't have to be malicious. This could be them, walking in their room in without any clothes on, or doing some work. There's a bunch of stuff that we all know that through cameras and cameras IDs and passwords, and through household cameras and all this stuff, there are threats that could be posed to our organizations from all kinds of different ways. Well, the Chinese are not wary of this. Although this is illegal in China, there are tens and thousands of these. It's something to really look at your risk assessment plan right now as we get back to traveling, as we realize that we're going to see more and more of this stuff, and decide, how do we want to deal with this risk? How do we want to deal with it? What are some of the things we could do in order to ensure that our executives and our team isn't compromised by any of the stuff? So something really cool and something really to consider today. Folks, that's it for our Practitioner Brief today. At 8 p.m. tonight, the Tech Town Square with Eddie will be live right here on Facebook, YouTube, and on my personal LinkedIn page. James J. Azar. If you haven't followed me there, please make sure to do so. We'll be live. We'll be talking about how nation states are now improving the cyber capabilities of terrorist organizations, and that's bound to raise some eyebrows. So you'll want to tune into that for sure at 8 p.m. today. atpcyberfintech.com. Go right now. If you can't attend, at least register and be able to watch all the sessions virtually. We'll be back with more tomorrow to wrap up this week. Tomorrow, joining me will be James McQuiggan of KnowBe4. We'll be wrapping up the week together as I start to bring on more guests on the Practitioner Brief. So stay tuned Until then, thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe, follow, and most importantly, share. Thank you, folks. Have a great rest of your day and stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.